Have you ever wondered what you would do if you found yourself lost in the middle of a forest? Picture this. A young ranger, full of ambition and curiosity, finds himself in the heart of a forest. It's a place brimming with life, yet it's as intimidating as it is intriguing. His compass lies useless, his map provides no solace. He's lost in the labyrinth of nature, his heart pounding like a drum with each passing second. Imagine his plight, the feeling of being utterly alone, surrounded by the unknown. His only company, the ominous rustling of leaves, the distant call of unknown creatures, and the chilling wind that whispers tales of danger. Fear begins to creep in, replacing his initial bewilderment. The forest, once a symbol of beauty and adventure, now morphs into a menacing labyrinth. But nature, as unpredictable as it can be, has its own way of unfolding events. Just when despair starts to take hold, the young ranger spots a figure in the distance, a silhouette that stands out against the dense foliage. A sense of dread washes over him. After all, he's intruded into a world where he's no longer at the top of the food chain. The figure moves closer, its features becoming clearer with each passing moment. It's a lioness, majestic and beautiful, yet equally formidable. The ranger's heart skips a beat. 1,000 thoughts race through his mind, each more terrifying than the last. But there's something different about this lioness. There's a familiarity in her eyes, a sense of recognition. Could it be? Is it possible? The young ranger can't shake off the feeling that he's seen those eyes before, and then it hits him. A memory from years ago of a young cub he had once rescued, those same captivating eyes staring back at him. Could this lioness be the same cub from his past now, all grown up? The idea seems far-fetched, yet there's a glimmer of hope. But what he didn't know was that he was about to meet an old friend. As he stumbled through the undergrowth, a figure emerged, a figure that should have struck fear into his heart, but instead brought comfort. In the heart of the wilderness, our young ranger found himself face to face with a creature of formidable grace and power. A creature not unknown to him, a lioness. This was a face from his past, a face he had once saved. As he looked into her eyes, he saw a flicker of recognition. Memories flooded back of a time when he had come across a young cub, trapped and afraid. He had freed her, cared for her, and returned her to the wild. Now, years later, their paths crossed again. The cub he had once saved had grown into a majestic lioness, the queen of the jungle. It was a moment of surprise, a moment of joy, a moment of fear, all intertwined. But amidst all these emotions there was an undeniable sense of relief. He wasn't alone anymore. He had a friend, a protector in this vast, uncharted wilderness. The lioness, recognizing the man who once saved her life, stood her ground, her protective instincts kicking in. She didn't approach him, didn't show any signs of aggression. Instead, she watched him, her eyes filled with a calm and understanding that was almost human. The ranger, although initially taken aback, gradually understood this silent communication. He saw the lioness not as a threat, but as a guardian, a beacon of hope in the face of his predicament. This was a bond formed many years ago, a bond that had survived the test of time and the harsh realities of the wild. As he stood there staring at the lioness, he realized something profound. This was more than just a chance encounter. This was a reunion, a reconnection with a friend from his past. A friend who, despite being a creature of the wild, shared a deep, unspoken bond with him. This was no ordinary lioness, and this was no ordinary encounter. The lioness, recognizing the ranger, took him under her protection. There was an immediate shift in the atmosphere. A silent understanding between two beings of different species. The lioness, with her regal, commanding presence, seemed to emanate a sense of safety and security. In the midst of the dense, intimidating forest, the young ranger found solace under the watchful eyes of this magnificent creature. The lioness, with her keen senses and unparalleled knowledge of the terrain, became his guardian, his guide, his protector. She shielded him from the lurking dangers that prowled in the forest's shadowy corners, warding off any potential threats with a mere growl, a fierce glare. The relationship between the ranger and the lioness was something to behold. It was a bond forged in the crucible of adversity, a testament to the power of empathy and kindness. They moved in harmony, their footsteps echoing in unison against the forest floor. He, the young ranger, lost and scared, yet brave and resilient. And she, the lioness, powerful and majestic, yet gentle and kind. It was an unlikely alliance, one that transcended the boundaries of language and species. She didn't understand his words, but she felt his gratitude, his respect. And he, in turn, honored her strength, her grace, her indomitable spirit. He watched as she navigated the treacherous forest paths with ease, her every move radiating confidence and authority. As the days turned into nights and the nights back into days, the forest ceased to be a fearsome labyrinth. It became a place of learning, a place of growth. Under the lioness's protection, the ranger discovered the true essence of the wilderness, its beauty and its brutality, its tranquility and its tumult. The lioness, in her own silent, majestic way, taught him more about the forest than any map or guidebook ever could. She showed him the forest through her eyes, and in doing so, she revealed a world he never knew existed. It was as if she knew him, recognized him, and knew that he meant no harm. And thus, under her protection, he found his way, not just out of the forest, but into a deeper understanding of nature and his place within it. As the ranger found his way out of the forest, he made a promise to the lioness. This was no ordinary promise, but a solemn vow, a commitment made from the heart. He stood before her, a humble human in the presence of a majestic beast, and pledged to repay her kindness. He didn't have riches to offer, no gold or jewels. What he had was far more valuable. In place of material gifts, he offered a promise of respect and protection. He vowed to honor her and her kin, to educate others about the importance of coexistence, of understanding and respecting these magnificent creatures. The ranger knew that his life had been forever changed by this encounter. It wasn't just about the physical rescue, the saving from danger. It was the emotional rescue, the realization that even in the heart of the wilderness, kindness could be found. He understood that the lioness had not just protected him, she had taught him an invaluable lesson. A lesson about the capacity for compassion in all creatures, about the deep connections that can form if only we open our hearts and minds. With a newfound respect for the natural world and its inhabitants, the ranger made his pledge. He promised to champion the cause of the lioness and others like her, to teach people about the importance of respecting wildlife, of understanding that every creature has its place in the grand tapestry of life. He knew that actions speak louder than words, so he didn't just make a promise, he made a plan to return to the forest, not as a lost wanderer, but as an advocate, an ambassador of goodwill between humans and animals. He looked into the lioness's eyes one last time before leaving. He saw understanding in her gaze, an unspoken acknowledgement of his pledge. He knew then that his life's purpose had been revealed in that forest, under the watchful eyes of the lioness. And though she didn't understand his words, she seemed to understand his intention. Time passed, and the ranger returned to the forest, this time not alone. The young man, once lost and afraid, now strode confidently into the wilderness, leading a band of curious guests behind him. His eyes held a steady gleam, a testament to the transformation he had undergone in this very forest. The forest was alive with the hum of its inhabitants, but to the uninitiated it was a mysterious place. The ranger, however, was no stranger to these woods. He knew every tree, every trail, and every creature that called it home. He was a part of the forest, and the forest was a part of him. As they ventured deeper, the guests marveled at the beauty around them. The ranger pointed out the birds in the trees, the fish in the water, and the deer grazing in the meadows. Every creature, he explained, had a role to play in the grand scheme of life. They were not just inhabitants of the forest, they were its guardians. But the real star of the journey was yet to come. As they approached a clearing, the ranger stopped and motioned for silence. The chatter died down, and the group watched in awe as a majestic lioness appeared. The ranger shared the story of their unlikely friendship, of a bond formed through kindness and mutual respect. He spoke of the time when he was lost and alone, and how the lioness had come to his aid. He spoke of the promise he had made to her, a promise to return and show others the beauty of the forest and its inhabitants. And here he was, fulfilling that promise. The ranger's message was clear. Every creature, big or small, deserves our respect and kindness. We are not the masters of the world, we are merely its caretakers. And in showing kindness to these animals, we are not just doing them a favor, but ourselves as well. And there, in the heart of the forest, the lioness watched, a silent testament to a bond formed in the wilderness and a promise kept. And so, what can we learn from this ranger's tale? In the heart of the wilderness, where the laws of nature rule, a young ranger found himself in an unlikely alliance with a lioness. But it was not by sheer luck or coincidence that this unexpected companionship was formed. It was a result of a seed of kindness sown in the past, a seed that grew into a life-saving bond. This is a compelling testament to the unspoken rule of the wild. Every act of kindness reverberates, every act of compassion resonates. Our ranger's story teaches us that our actions, especially towards animals and nature, have consequences. It reminds us that kindness is a language understood by all creatures, regardless of species. It may be a soft purr of a kitten, a wag of a dog's tail, or the protective roar of a lioness. They all respond to kindness in their own ways. But it's not just about the reciprocation of kindness. It's about the responsibility that comes with it. The ranger didn't just walk away after being saved. He made a promise to repay the kindness, and he held true to his word. He didn't just save himself, he paved the way for others to experience the majesty of the wild, to see animals not as threats but as companions, as part of our shared world. So let's take a moment to reflect. Reflect on our actions, on our choices. Are we sowing seeds of kindness, or are we turning a blind eye to the creatures with whom we share this world? Are we honoring our promises to them, or are we breaking them? Remember, it's not just about us. It's about all of us, humans and animals alike. In the end, it's not just about survival, but about the bonds we form and the promises we keep. That's the true essence of our relationship with the natural world.